was an ordinary day. I was coming home from work. The house greeted me the same way as always, emptiness and silence. Only the ticking of an old clock and the quiet hum of the fridge filled the space. My home felt abandoned, and every time I returned, all I felt was emptiness. This routine drained me. Work, home, sleep. I had become a ghost even before I had truly died. But that night, something was different. Lying in bed, I felt an unusual unease. Every time I closed my eyes, it felt like someone else was there. At first, I thought it was just fatigue, but the creeping cold that slowly enveloped the room wouldn't let me rest. I had the sensation that someone was watching me. The silence of the house was no longer comforting. It had become heavy, almost suffocating. Was I really alone? A shadow flickered near the door. At first, I thought it was a trick of the light or my imagination. But my heart started beating faster when I heard the quiet creak of the floorboards in the distance. Fear enveloped me. It was too strange, too unclear. The feeling that I wasn't alone grew stronger, as if something invisible was breathing down my neck. I hesitated to leave the room, but gathering all my courage, I opened the door. In the hallway, everything was as it always was. Silence, darkness, familiar shadows. But still, something kept gnawing at me. I felt like I was being watched, or maybe something was watching me. I went to the kitchen, my favorite place in the house. The kitchen had always been my refuge, where I could find comfort in good food. But this time, stepping inside, I sensed that something was wrong. Everything looked familiar, but the cold that gripped me to the bone. I glanced at the window by accident. The reflection in the glass made my heart stop. Someone was standing behind me. A tall figure, indistinct, like it was made of mist, silently staring right at me. In a panic, I quickly turned around, but there was no one there anymore. However, the disappearance of that figure brought no relief. I suddenly realized that something had changed, not just in the kitchen, but in the whole house. I was no longer in my familiar reality. The house felt different. Familiar objects looked distorted, as if I was in a parallel world, or perhaps in a world from which there was no escape. The longer I looked at what surrounded me, the more I was overwhelmed by the thought, am I even in my world anymore? Or have I ended up somewhere else? It seemed like everything around me, the furniture, the dishes, even the walls, stayed in place, but they looked slightly wrong. Like shadows of familiar things, created by someone who had never seen the real world, only tried to recreate it from memory. The air grew thicker, and it felt like it was pressing down on me from all sides. Even the sounds of the clock and the fridge became muffled, like distant echoes. I began to doubt every step I took. Did I really come home that evening? Or was it just an illusion? A fragment of memories now stuck in an endless cycle where I no longer controlled reality. My heart pounded wildly as I looked at the window again. The glass was now frosted, as if covered with a film. I moved closer, hoping to see my street, the familiar landscape that I knew so well. But instead, I saw only darkness, endless black void. And then I understood. I was no longer in my world, and perhaps I would never return. The thought sent a wave of cold panic through me, and I suddenly jumped up from the bed. It was a nightmare. Or was it? My heart raced in my chest, and sweat dripped from my forehead. Everything looked as if I had just woken up. The room was the same as always, the same clock ticking its monotonous beat, the same chair by the window, the same shadows on the walls. But that was just the outward feeling. Inside, a terror gripped me that didn't dissipate with waking. The sense that it wasn't just an ordinary nightmare haunted me. Something about it was wrong, as if I hadn't truly woken up, or hadn't fully woken up. I sat on the edge of the bed, trying to calm my breathing, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this world, my room, this house, was no longer real, or maybe they were always an illusion. Something was wrong, something hidden within these familiar walls. I could no longer tell where reality ended and the dream began, or something far darker and more terrifying. What if I never woke up at all?